well. Good to see you again
Good to see you too.
and to talk about this great film. So, we're here talking about relationship goals. And of course, this is the film, this is an adaptation of the best selling book from Pastor Mike Todd. And we're so excited about that. So, I have to ask you, first of all, what drew you to this project?
What drew me to the project was, Mike Todd and the success of the book. I was familiar, with him because of the success of the YouTube series called Relationship Goals. And then he and I had a chance to meet. And then about a year later, he released the Relationship Goals book. And I was like, wow, there are millions of people that are responding to this message. And as a producer, I'm always looking at like, okay, what's happening in culture that might make for a good film. And so when I saw the book, and I took a look at it, I said, "Oh yeah, this has the principles to make for a really commercial and successful film."
And so, what was, I have to ask this as a producer on this film, what was your personal goal? What was your, the outcome that you hoped for as you approach this film?
Yeah, whenever I'm producing a film, and I'm doing an adaptation, so to speak, or their source material, I'm always hoping that one, the person who I'm doing the movie about, if it's a true story, or in this case, the author of the book, Pastor Mike Todd, my first thing is I want to make sure this movie honors them and the story that they live. Because for me, it's a movie, but for them, it's their life. And so, I don't want to just go and say, well, these are my ideas. I want to like, no, make sure, okay, here are my ideas on how to do it. Does that work with you? And so with Pastor Mike, it was always like, hey man, I want to make sure this movie honors the ideas and the thoughts that God gave you. And then the second part of it was like, I want to make sure this is entertaining. People go to church for sermons. They go to streaming or to the theater for entertainment. And so for me, whenever I'm making a film, I'm always approaching it from like, what's the story? What about it is commercial? What's going to make it entertaining? Why are people going to laugh, cry, clap when they see this film? And so I felt like there were elements of what was in the underlying material that would allow me to create a film that could do all of those things.
Okay, so you mentioned the fact that we go to these films for entertainment. I noticed that this is a romantic comedy, right?
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, you all were able to deliver some very, I think, heavy subjects. You talked about relationships, all kind, friendships, work relationships, family, loss, grief, all of that stuff. How did you balance having those kind of conversations inside of this romantic comedy, inside this genre?
Yeah, I wanted to do an inspirational romantic comedy. I wanted to do a romantic comedy with substance. Don't get me wrong, romantic comedies are a genre that have been around for a very long time, and people love them because they can tend to be a little more fluffy, and you just watch it, you laugh, and you go on about your life. And for me, I wanted to have a movie where people could do that, but they also would take something from it. And so that's when you see the complexity of all the things the characters get a chance to experience. It's because I really wanted to make this movie relatable. I wanted to make this movie, honest and authentic. And sometimes, when we're making a romantic comedy, you kind of sometimes will outsource authenticity for comedy. And for me, with relationship goals, I wanted to have all of it. I wanted to have comedy and I wanted to have authenticity. I wanted to have heart. I wanted to have hurt. I wanted to have help. I wanted to have all these things. So when you watch it, you say, wow, this romantic comedy is really about something. And I think that's a part of the success of this film.
How did you all guide this beautiful and incredibly talented cast in order to create the dynamic? Like we saw such energy, especially between among the girlfriends. I love that the girlfriends
Yeah.
had such great chemistry. But how, as a cast overall, how did you all nurture that?
Well, first of all, with any great cast, it always starts with the demeanor and the disposition of the number one on the call sheet, and that was Kelly Rowland. And Kelly Rowland is she's an icon for a reason, and a young icon at that. And she's an ambassador of hope and goodwill, and that's what she brought to the movie. And that just permeated throughout the cast and the set. When you talk about Cliff Method Man Smith and Robin Thede and Annie Gonzalez and everyone. I mean, every day we were on set, Kelly is just this ambassador of goodness. And so creating an environment on set where we could make a great film wasn't that hard. because she really, set the tone. And our director Linda Mendoza, just same personality, same person, personality, lover of life, and just such a great person. And so for me, it's not just about what is produced that you get a chance to see. It's about making sure that the same spirit that I want the audience to take away from is the same spirit that the movie was produced from. And I can say that it really was, when it comes to relationship goals.
This is a personal question for you. What projects excite you, Devon?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the truth. I can't do a movie unless it excites me. I can't do a project, whether it's a book, whether it's an audio book. I have an audio book with Audible that comes out this week, based upon a one-man show that I did called Be True, sharing my personal story from divorce to remarriage. And that is something I'm excited about. Relationship goals. When I found this book and I started working on it, I'm excited about putting this out there. Ruth and Boaz, I'm excited about it. So everything you see from me comes from a place of excitement and authenticity. It's not just about like, oh, this movie is going to be very successful. It's like, no, this movie is exciting me. Why is it exciting me? Because I think it's going to improve people's lives. I am crazy enough to believe that entertainment is still, one of the most powerful mediums in the world, and I'm committed to using it, as a force of good. And so every project that I do, I'm excited about it, because here's the other thing: movies don't make themselves. Every movie is a miracle. So if I'm not excited about it, then I can't do everything that's going to be required to get the movie made, and then to be here and then go and communicate why people should tune in. So if I've lost my enthusiasm for something, then it probably ain't gonna happen, because I'm like, man, if I'm not enthusiastic, then how can I get you to be enthusiastic?
Absolutely. Final question. I asked this of Pastor Mike Todd. What is it that you want people to take away from this? What is it that and all well, this is my question. I want to ask this instead. What do you think faith-based creatives have in this the responsibility they have in this space?
Well, I think the responsibility of a faith-based creative is to not allow anyone in the faith space to dictate what you create. And why I say that is, if you go to the Bible, okay, let's look at what's in the Bible. Violence and infidelity and war and all of the things, lust, love. The Bible did not pull punches when it came to
Mhm,
telling stories. Why? Because if it did, the stories wouldn't resonate and the book wouldn't have as deep of an impact as it continues to have.
mhm.
So if you're a faith-based creative, you got to go before God and identify what is it he's calling you to tell. He may be calling you to tell a story that's never been told before. And everybody says, oh no, someone of faith can't do that, but he's called you to do it. So don't outsource the authority on your creativity to anybody else but God.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the film and
Thank you.
listen, just excited about everything to come. Thank you, Devon.
Right on. Thanks, John.
All right.